Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is part 2 of a 3-part webinar series from my trip to Interzum in May earlier this year. Part 1, we looked at materials from the materials and nature section of the show. Today we're going to take a little bit of a dive into the function and components part of the show. The function and components section of the show incorporates a really wide variety of things, everything from hardware through to internal organization, power and lighting. So we're going to really focus on hardware today, and then part 3 of the webinar series will go into kind of a bit of everything else, internal organization and lighting and power and all those sorts of interesting things. So for today, let's just take a look. If you have watched part 1, you've heard all this already, but just in case you're starting with part 2, I thought it was worth having a bit of a look at some facts and figures about the show. This was the first face-to-face version of Interzum that was held since the pandemic. So that was really great to be back in the halls. It wasn't quite the size of the show which was last held in 2019 before the pandemic, but it was pretty close. So we had 62,000 trade visitors from around 150 countries, 1,600 exhibitors from 59 countries, and a total of 186,000 square meters of exhibition space. So that's a lot of room to cover in 4 days. And if you're wondering if my feet were very, very sore by the end, I can tell you that yes, they really were. But luckily there was a lot to see, and when you're interacting with such inspirational things, it's kind of easy to keep going. So let's have a look at what we're going to talk about today. So in terms of function and components, hardware, fittings, locks, office furniture, functional systems, movable parts and more. So that's what the show segments into when it talks about function and components. So obviously it would pretty much be impossible. I think it would take me 4 days to talk to you about absolutely everything that I saw. So I'm going to pick and choose some of my favorite things that I saw that I think are the most interesting, and we'll take a little bit of a look at those in a little bit more detail. So let's have a look at these first 2 products. These are from Pika Systems. First one we're going to have a look at in more detail is the Reverso drawer. So as the name suggests, this is a pretty cool system which allows for the drawer to be opened from either side of a peninsula or an island. So what's fantastic about this is obviously you can access the contents of the drawer from either side of the island, but they've really thought about it in terms of when you open it from one side, they have an overlay front, which means that the front of the other side is not going to be pulled through the drawer. So they've really thought about the functionality, but particularly this is great for utensils. So if you're setting a dining table and it's on the other side of the peninsula, you can access those products. Or if you want plates to go on the dining table or any other items, saves you having to walk all the way around and go back into the kitchen. You can access it from both sides. Reverso uses a full extension grass runner with a load capacity of 46 kilos and a built-in soft closing mechanism. So there's a real kind of not just design, but there's a real functionality focus behind what they've done there. If we have a look at their next product, so this is called the Pleno Maxi. So you can see from the photo here that we've got really generous shelves and a really well thought out use of vertical and horizontal space. So the Pleno Maxi system is available in a standard and a plus version. In the plus version, the upper shelves are split between the door and the cabinet, as you can see in this photo here. So that means that you really are bringing all of the items from inside that cupboard out to make them highly accessible, and particularly when you're talking about items that are on those upper shelves. And if you're bit of a short person like I am, even when you've got that system that comes out, getting things that are at the very, very top of that top cupboard, or sorry, the very, very back of the top shelf can still be quite challenging. So having that split system shows a real thought and consideration around the access of the materials and how that's going to work. So they've really thought also about the technology. So it only requires attaching to one of the side walls, and the same mechanism can be used whether or not it's mounted on the right or the left. So that way you can really think about how you need to apply it in terms of the way that the kitchen's been designed, or the way that your client is going to need to use the space, or whatever. So there's a lot of flexibility in there. One of our favorite companies to visit when we go is Bloom. They had obviously a number of products on display. This is just two that I am bringing to you today. So the first one is their new Ampros system. Now, Ampros won an Intism Award 2023 in the best of the best category. So this is the highest level of award that you can win at the show in the function and components category. So Ampros is really cool because you've got the ability to power or charge devices directly in a drawer or in a slide out unit. You can provide lighting through the power source, and you've got this real, as you can see in the photo there, this great way of organizing all the cables, so you're not having a mess of cables and attachments and running things at the back of the drawer or the back of the system. Two versions are available, Ampros AC or Ampros DC, and you can combine them with other pull-out systems and existing interfaces within the cabinet profile for Legrobox and Movento. So just really loving the way that we're thinking. I mean, power is everything these days. We're all attached to our devices. So really loving the sort of the clever application of how we can get power into drawers, and particularly in the example that you can see here, for really functional things that you need to access every day, like your coffee machines, rather than having all that mess out on the countertop. The next product to look at is the Aventos Top family. So we've got a range of lift systems here, all designed to suit different applications and different interior spaces, depending on what is needed. Compact design, integrated features. So you've got some really practical applications here for lift systems. Set fixing position for the lift mechanism. I don't know why I'm stumbling over my words today. Adaptive motion adjustment and mechanism adjustment from the front really makes this a really practical feature to include in your designs. And with the 4 different family members, there is a lift system to suit whatever style of kitchen or interior space you are designing. ATIM is one of my favorite companies to visit when I go to the show. Maybe I'm a little bit biased. They're an Italian company, so great design credentials, but backed with a lot of technology and a lot of thought. So 2 of the products we're going to talk about today are their sliding top solutions and their solutions for tall units. If we have a look at their sliding top solutions, so there's 2 versions here. One is called Corner, which is pictured to your left. The other one is called Twice Top, which is pictured to your right. So these 2 sliding systems allow for this top unit to move. So in the example of the corner unit, that corner section slides out to create a breakfast area or a bar area or a servery area, depending on what you need. But then it also slides back, so you don't have to have it extended. And same with the Twice Top on your right, that unit actually slides back in And then that way you're only really having the extended or the protruding space as you need it. So you've got I guess, a real flexibility there in terms of making the most of the available space. And particularly, maybe less so in Australian kitchens, where we do seem to have a lot more space than the average kitchen to have those sort of areas. But in Europe, these kind of space saving and multifunctional space using technologies is really important, where a lot of kitchens are quite small. So you really do have to think about how you can maximize the use of that space. With the Opla system, so these are great for creating additional workspaces or workstations with a pull-out surface. So the thing with having lots of tall units in the kitchen is obviously you maximizing your storage space, but you might be restricting the amount of set down space or functional work area that you have. So these units that slide out are absolutely fabulous for tall units. So what you're able to do is pull them out, use them either as prep space or serving space or organizational space, but then they slide back into the tall unit and a door can be closed over the top. So it's a really functional and practical application, and they've really thought about the running mechanism. So they've really thought about how to get it to slide out very, very smoothly and stay in place, and then slide back in very, very smoothly. So there's a real kind of thought to the application of the product and how that's going to work in a practical sense. Another one of my favorite companies to visit. So this is the new Fernspin unit from Hedig. Again, winner of Best of the Best in the function and component section, and very well deserved, I feel. So Fernspin is a way of looking at access to the interior of cabinets that doesn't require a door system. So let's have a closer look. So here's an example of Fernspin in both closed and open. So the interior section, or the interior part of the cabinet, rotates on its axis in order to create an open space where you can access the contents of the cupboard from both sides, but then easily spins back in place to close up the unit. Here's another example. Oh, here we go. Here's another example of it in a smaller unit. It is available for large, medium, and small units. As you can see, there's no sides required. So they've really thought about how the dampening system works and how the spinning function and the soft close at the end of the spinning function is going to work, to make sure that items within the cabinet aren't going to fall over. So it's really elegant to see this in practice, to see it actually working. It's got a beautiful function, a beautiful turning section. And what I love about it is you've got this fabulous balance of open and closed spaces, but without needing doors. Doors often protrude into spaces, and particularly where you're talking about living rooms or kitchens or areas where you get quite a bit of high traffic. That idea of opening, closing doors, or if you need to have a door open in order to be accessing things in the cupboard, that door is creating a barrier. That door is creating a possible, problem for impeding traffic flow. So this idea of this unit that just spins, it really negates any worries about, how you're going to access. But it also means that you've got this great ability to close up things. So when you want a space to look nice and streamlined and uncluttered, you can just close off certain units and have all of that potential mess or clutter or whatever hidden away. So yeah, I really, very taken by this, and I really think that there are applications for this product in pretty much every room of the home. Let's take a look at a couple of things from Häfele. On the left here, you can see this is their new Free Slim fitting for their lift up doors. Here's a couple of different examples. So it's a really slim, the biggest issue we've always had with flap systems is the amount of space that the fitting takes up inside the cabinet. So there's obviously been a lot of thought across all the major hardware manufacturers as to how can we limit the amount of space that our hardware needs to take up inside a cabinet. So Free Slim's got a few different versions. The one I particularly like is where the actual fitting is housed inside or integrated directly into the cabinet wall. So you really are saving a lot of space, and you really are hiding all of that functionality away. So you get the resulting requirement as in terms of you get the outcome you want, but we've hidden away the actual mechanism that works. So I really love how that works and how that looks. And I think there are definite applications, particularly in that more minimalist environment where you might not have a lot of space inside the cabinet. You don't want it to be taken up too much with the fitting and the other bits and pieces in there. This is the Slido F-Park, another great idea from Häfele. This is a pivot sliding system, and the idea is that you can store your large kitchen front elements or doors at the sides of the cabinet, and they can disappear all the way into a pocket. So you can pop them all the way into the side, lock them away. They've got a smooth opening and soft closing. So you've got this really lovely function in there in terms of how the householder or the homeowner is going to interact with the system. And because it folds away and then stores really neatly in the pocket, you're actually just removing that impediment from the kitchen entirely. So instead of having a flap system that sits open and then protrudes into the room, you're actually just taking it completely out. So you're also giving the homeowner the ability to have open or closed spaces as they wish or as they need without having to worry about running into that protruding door. So if they use the kitchen a lot during the day on the weekends, they can just have the flap system pocketed away nicely and not have it out in the open at all. But then at night, when they want it to look nice and clean, you can just close everything up. So I think that's a really nice thing to be able to offer your homeowner, is that they've got the choice then of how they want the space to look at different times, depending on the different functions that they're carrying out at the time. Two things that I really thought were very cool from Valsegel. This is top down and wash. Now we've seen systems like top down before. It's not a new idea. What Valsegel have done is really played around a lot with the technology about how to make this system work. So I made reference before to me not being the tallest of people. So I do love a system that helps you utilize all the space, because I know in my kitchens at home, all the stuff that are in the top cabinets, you've got that lower layer, because that's what I can reach, so that's what we use. Anything above that is really not utilized. Either I don't store anything there, or anything that's up there, I have to make special arrangements to reach. So I love the idea of a system that helps you utilize all the functionality in a cupboard and have that stuff easily accessible with this pull down unit. So top down has got this beautiful handle. So the base of the unit actually becomes the handle. So rather than having to have something else that's protruding from the unit or something else that's added onto the unit, the base then actually just has that little lip that acts as the handle. You're optimizing storage space, so minimal requirement for the fitting. And the other thing that I really liked about this was that they've had to think about how the spring force can be manually set, and they've got 5 different stages that you can set it at. So that way you've always got a moderated drop down movement. So it's not ever going to come down and whack you on the head or whatever. It's controlled at every part, and you can set it to stop at the optimum level for you. It also can be retrofitted, which is really cool. So that way it doesn't have to be necessarily spec'd at the beginning of the project, it can be retrofitted later. So just elegant. I really like the look of it. I really like the feel of it. I think it's modern. It's got a great aesthetic. The other thing that I really thought was cool from Valsegal is this is wash. So here again, they've been a bit clever. Wash uses their existing bin system, so they haven't had to come up with anything new. There's no new interior fittings. There's no new sliding systems or anything else here. What they've done is they've thought, well, we've already got a really good bin system and sorting system that works really, really well. Is there a way that we can apply that for, say, a laundry environment? And in this case, so the bins are exactly the same as the bins that you would spec in a kitchen for general rubbish, recycling, those sorts of things. All they've done is they've cut holes. They've just made a series of holes on the sides of the bins, because obviously in a bin in a kitchen, you don't want holes, but a bin in the laundry, you absolutely want holes so that there's air and breathable space around the dirty clothes while they're waiting to be washed. So I just really like that this was a really elegant, practical as well, because you've got handles already on your bins that you can use to carry your washing out to the laundry or the washing machine. But just, yeah, a really lovely kind of reuse of an existing product in a clever way, just thinking about what needs to be changed about this product to make it relevant for another application or a different room. Lucky last in this series, so this is another door system. So this is called Spin from Terno Scoravoli. Apologies to all my Italian friends who might be watching and listening. I do know that I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. So this is a new system that they've just brought out for folding doors. And it's focused on how do we create a really smooth and quiet movement. So the doors open fully, which allows you to have complete access to everything in the cupboards. But also, I think the important thing with this is that it's not just applicable in the kitchen. You can apply it in bathrooms, you can apply it for wardrobes, workspaces, as you can see in the picture here. So it's a really nice system that is great for every room in the home. And the thing is that the fitting is actually positioned on the top of the cabinet. So you've got, as in you can see in the example here, full height design solutions can be implemented without losing that space. So it's really looking at how you can use up the minimal space at the top of the cabinet, so that you're not really restricting the functionality of the cabinet. It has an adjustment over 3 axes, so that way it can be used with thinner doors, which I think again is a great sort of forward-thinking way of, you know, how can we make this product as applicable as possible to as many different rooms in the home or as many different spaces as we can. One of the fun things about going overseas and seeing all these fabulous things is the ability to, you know, bring this sort of stuff back for you. So what I've got here is my email address. So if you have seen something in the presentation, obviously I brought back a lot more information than I was able to share with you in this short webinar. So please feel free to send me an email if there is anything else that you would like to know, or if you'd like some further information. I do have a version of the report that is available for download. The link is on your screen in front of you there. So please feel free to take a screenshot or take a photo of that. And the other most important thing is next year we are traveling back to Milan for the first time since the pandemic. We'll be attending Milan Design Week to go to the Isoloni Furniture Show, Eurocucina and Salone Bagno. So if you would like to join us, there is a QR code that you can scan on your screen, or you can go visit our website, which is very simple, aidt.com.au, and find all the details, dates, itinerary, where we're going, what we're doing, and we would love to see you. So thank you so much for your time. Looking forward to session 3 of this webinar. We'll take a little bit of a dive into internal organisation, a bit of power, some lighting, and a few other cool things. So I shall see you all soon. Thank you for your time.